Have you ever experienced spooky coincidences happen to you in your life? Like maybe you're shopping at the grocery store and you're picking out the apples, and all of a sudden someone pops into your mind who you haven't thought about in years, and then a minute later you look up and that same person is standing right there, right behind the apples. Or maybe you're sitting in the car with your friend and you're discussing the very interesting subject of yellow canaries. Maybe you guys are bird enthusiasts. And as you're discussing this highly titillating subject, a truck drives by from Yellow Canary Construction. And both of you notice it. Like, what are the odds of that? That's a little weird. Or maybe you have a dream of something happening, like maybe a certain person appears at your doorstep and then the next day it happens. So these spooky coincidences are not easily explained by just pure random chance. Like another example is you're going through something in your life and you're really processing some heavy emotions, and you're walking by your bookshelf and you accidentally bump into it a little bit, and then a book kind of falls off the shelf and it just falls flat on it's like falls face down. So you go to pick the book up and it's open to the exact page that you needed to read at this point in your life to give you a much needed piece of advice that's like perfectly relevant to your exact situation that you're in. Life is full of all sorts of these spooky coincidences for those who have the eyes to see. And what I've been learning a lot along my personal development journey is that these things are called synchronicities, and you can actually learn how to read synchronicities, and you can actually wire your mind to actually be on the lookout for them, and you can use these synchronicities to basically check to see if you're on the right path in your life. You can almost develop a personal connection with your universe. It's like you and the creator, or you and God, or if you're not religious, just this, we're going to discuss if you're not religious in a second, but it's just a really weird unexplained phenomena because synchronicity definitely does exist, and I'll give you some tips later in this video for how to do certain experiments to basically guarantee that you experience lots of synchronicities in your life, and how to actually use these synchronicities to guide you in your life, to check to see if you're on the right track, and also to course correct as well. You can use synchronicities to give you answers to questions that you've been worrying about, confirmations like, should I do this business, or is this person right for me, etc. You can actually use your relationship with your world to do this. Now, I know even before we start, this sounds a little bit mystical, a little bit airy-fairy, and kind of unscientific. And the problem is that synchronicities exist. It's a real thing. It's not something that's only random chance. There's people like me, for example, who have been aware of a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about in this video for 3 or 4 years. And I want you to understand, when I first began my journey, I did not believe in this at all. I'm a very left-brained, analytical, scientific, logical type thinker. One of my top values is logic, and I'm not this type of person to just blindly believe in like mystical things. It wasn't until I met my current girlfriend 4 years ago did she turn me on to this possibility that it's actually possible for the universe to communicate to you via the external world. So examples would be like symbols, Like you're thinking of something and then an eagle flies above your head and you don't know what it means. So you can actually Google what's the spiritual meaning of an eagle. And then it could tell you something that might be relevant to your life. Or she was very sensitive to these triple numbers. Like, oh, look, it's 222. Look, 333, 1111. And when I first met her, like, I wasn't into this. I was like, what do you mean it's 1111? Okay, what is, so, what is, that didn't mean anything to me. But she explained to me, she said, my girlfriend's psychic, by the way, she has psychic powers. She can read people's energy and give them readings and stuff based on subtle energies that she can read off of their field. Again, this is a real thing. This is one of the parts of reality. And if you just deny it, then okay, you're free to deny it, but you're denying a real thing that exists in reality. So I was skeptical at first, but I was also kind of curious and intrigued. Like, I guess, because I had experienced some synchronicities in my life up to that point, but my girlfriend really just kind of laid it out for me. Like, yeah, there's triple numbers. There's sometimes you see words on signs, or sometimes someone will be talking and they mention something in passing, like maybe they're not talking directly to you, but some kind of phrase that exits their mouth can be very relevant to your current life situation. It's like universal advice that you needed to hear. Opening up a book to a random page and then finding that was the exact page that you needed to read right now. So as I got more and more turned on to this possibility, I started noticing it happening more and more in my life. And eventually through more spiritual work, like doing more like meditation, even doing psychedelics and this kind of stuff, my life has become a constant synchronicity where there is not a single hour that passes where there is not some synchronistic event that occurs. And it's actually very beautiful. It's a very joyous, almost like a cathartic experience to really feel that the universe is speaking to me and I am communicating with it. And it's like me and my world are on the same team almost. And I feel like I have this relationship, I want to say with God, but I'm not really a religious person in the traditional sense, but just this relationship with something beyond that. It's a good thing. And you can call me crazy, sure, but you would be wrong because I'm not crazy. I'm actually a very sane, sober person. I'm not high all day. I actually do my business work and all this stuff. I'm a regular person who's just actually very aware and tuned into the fact that reality is more than it seems. So let's talk about a little bit of a logical explanation, like how can this even be possible? Well, over the last 8 years, I've invested a lot of time studying metaphysics, studying epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge, knowing how things can be known. I've studied hundreds of different perspectives, literally hundreds, many religious perspectives. I've studied Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, even New Age stuff, and all kinds of things. I've read many books. And on my journeys, I've learned that there's one overarching theme that you can really realize for yourself, and it's something that science is in denial about. And the overarching theme you can see in all different religions, all different wisdom traditions, from all across time, across the world, different continents. The overarching theme that we see is that reality is one interconnected whole. Reality is like one big tree, and its roots touch every single piece of existence. And to go even further, a very common theme that you see in all mystical texts, in all religious texts, even if you study, if you go deeper into science and you don't just kind of scratch the surface, but you really go into like the nitty-gritty details of quantum physics, you really read the actual writings of the quantum physicists like Niels Bohr, Schrödinger, Einstein. You actually read their writings, you contemplate really what they're saying. Really, what we're realizing as a species, and what we've known for thousands of years, but it's becoming more mainstream, is that reality is not material. It's not a physical, three-dimensional thing. Yes, from one perspective, it is that. So, in one state of consciousness, from one angle, yes, reality does have this solid seeming quality to it. I get that. I'm not denying that. But really, if you investigate a little bit closer and you're really curious, like I am, you just want to know what reality is and how it works, you just are interested in the truth, you start to realize that what the sages have been saying for thousands of years, that reality is actually made of one substance. And this substance is not a material substance, but actually it's more of a mental substance. Reality is made of consciousness itself. There's a famous Max Planck quote, a quantum physicist. Consciousness is fundamental. We can't get behind it. So materialism, realism, physicalism, atheism, this idea that reality is a physical three-dimensional thing that is only, it's just dumb matter. It's just atoms bouncing around in a sandbox. This is not empirically true. And this actually has been disproven over 100 years ago by quantum physics. And also, you can disprove it for yourself in your own experience. You can do an actual science experiment right now in your own room, wherever you are. If you're walking outside, you can actually just look around and notice that reality is actually made of experience. And this experience, there's no proof or evidence that this experience correlates to an actual physically occurring world out there. Because it's just like there's only experience. You have experience and that's it. There's no physical world that like you can actually go touch. And then you might say, well, Adam, but you grab a physical object. You say, but Adam, look, aren't I touching the physical world right now? And what I'm saying, no, look closer. What's actually happening? You are actually contacting your own mind. See, this object here, this is my journal. It's made of sight. This is my notes for the video. It's made of sight. It's made of touch. Touch is also an experience as well. It's made of thoughts. You have the thought that this is physical and material. So I've gone into deep proofs in other videos proving beyond the shred of a doubt that reality is not physical. I'll link another video up there for a more rigorous kind of proof. But cutting-edge thinkers in the year 2024 who are actually interested in the nature of existence, this is all in agreement, okay? So the cutting-edge worldview right now in the year 2024, you weren't taught this in school. You weren't taught this by your friends, your teachers, on the news, or your social media feed. But if you're a researcher like I am, you know that reality is mental. It's made of consciousness, and that's actually the only explanation for what reality is and how it works. Okay, so this is actually the case. One reason why this is the case is because actually this conception of reality. And see, concept and reality is a conception. You could say the whole universe is just one giant mind, which is why there are phenomenon in existence such as synchronicity, such as psychic abilities, such as paranormal phenomena like possession, such as encountering mystical beings, such as mystical awakening experiences. These things exist. They're real phenomena. They've been documented tens of thousands of times over thousands of years. And our current scientific paradigm, the way we explain it in the materialist atheist paradigm, is we say, well, no, that doesn't exist. It's just like a pure denial explanation. It's just like, nope. How can it exist if I don't look at it? If I pretend it's not there, then maybe it doesn't exist. But no, if you just close your eyes and ignore the fact that synchronicity is a real thing that happens, or psychic powers is a real thing that happens, or people having awakening experiences on psychedelics, or even sober, just meditating in a house, in a regular house, awakening and realizing the nature of consciousness, the nature of existence. These are things that happen. So what that means is our current science right now in the year 2024, when this is being filmed, it's not a complete model of existence. It doesn't have all the kinks ironed out of reality. In fact, it's actually totally incorrect in many cases. So science is limited, and this is proven by its lack of explanatory power in these non-tangible domains, in these domains that you can't just literally reach out and grab a synchronicity with your hands and then go, put it in a little box and study it under a microscope. You can't. It's not a physicalistic occurrence. It's a mystical, esoteric, sort of intangible occurrence. But just because something is mystical and intangible, it doesn't mean it doesn't have existence. It just exists as something that's mystical and intangible. So the explanation of synchronicity that can't exist because reality is just like a three-dimensional system, that's actually not true in any sense of the word, and that's actually fallacious. It's incorrect. So that being said, now that we have some context here, yes, wow, reality actually is one giant mind, and this mind can communicate with itself via the medium of experience. In the same way, when you dream at night, it's like you can have symbols and coincidences and signs that come to you in your dream. And it's like you can interface with the dream. You can imagine something and then it appears. So actual waking experience, what we would traditionally call physical reality, it's like a dream. And the boundaries between dream and waking, they can loosen a little bit, not in a way where you're going to be locked up in an insane asylum with a straitjacket, being fed blended peas through a straw. Reality is a mind, and actually when you learn how to speak with this mind or to communicate with this mind, you can actually create your own reality. You can achieve success in your life. You can become the person you want to be. Like, if you've studied success, like I have a lot, you realize that the best-selling books from every decade in the last 100 years, like The Science of Success in the 1900s, in the early 1900s. Then Think and Grow Rich in the 1930s. Then Psycho-Cybernetics in the 1960s. Then The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in the 1990s. To The Secret in the 2000s. These books, if you really actually read them with your eyes, and you actually look at them, and you actually open them, and you read the words inside the book, they're all saying the same thing. It's that reality is created by your mind. The type of mind you have, the type of thoughts and feelings that you focus on, the type of person you're being, that determines the actions that you take. And then that determines the results that you get. So I've already given you many examples of synchronicities. Like, for example, seeing a hawk fly above you and then Googling the definition, or just, you can really take your own definition. So I'm going to give you some general tips about, interpreting and understanding synchronicities. Number one, understand that it's a subjective thing. It's not like there's one canonical objective meaning of a hawk flying above you. It's based on what does it mean to you? Does it resonate with you? Do you feel something when you see it? Does it click? A lot of times synchronicities, you can tell it's a synchronicity if it kind of sticks out in this weird way. And usually they always happen spontaneously, so you can't make it happen. You can't sit beside the clock and be like at 11:10 and just wait for it to change to 11:11. No, normally it's something that kind of happens when you least expect it. You just open your phone randomly and poof, there it is. So synchronicities are things that you can't force them to happen, and usually they're up to your subjective interpretation. Okay, so how to actually interpret signs is up to you, really. You're the creator of your reality, so it's very subjective. Generally, a sign is something that almost happens by accident, or if someone's talking, a lot of times they'll say something that is a certain keyword or a hot word that lights a light bulb in your head, but they don't say it on purpose. It's it just kind of slipped out, and they don't even realize what they're saying. That's a synchronicity. A synchronicity is not someone coming into your room and it really all depends, actually. So the point really, in order to understand synchronicity, you have to understand the flow state and what it really means to be on your highest timeline. Quantum physics has been pointing to the fact that reality is an infinite range of potential timelines. And it's like changing the channel of a television. You can switch timelines by changing the thoughts that you focus on, by you're the receiver of experience, and you can switch the station of your life by changing how you feel, think, and act. And I've made hour-long videos discussing this subject. I'll link some of them down below with a little bit more rigor. But in order to live on your highest timeline, you need to follow your highest excitement. You need to kind of learn how to follow your intuition. So in order to really ride the flow of synchronicity towards your dream life, or to live a life that feels effortless and aligned, where you feel like reality is really taking care of you, like the bridge is coming up underneath your feet, there's some certain steps that you need to know. Like, for example, spending time every day visualizing your ideal scenario, your ideal life scenario. Making sure it's really true and authentic for you. It's not like I want to be the Queen of England, or it's like over excessively luxurious. But you want to really like visualize your ideal life scenario. What this does is it tunes your frequency to your highest timeline. Then you just kind of let go and you trust that the happenings that occur in your world are always synchronicities. So even if something goes wrong or bad or it goes against your plan, you should go with it anyways. Assume it's a good thing. And I've made another video about that as well. So this is how you allow the synchronicities to flow, is you don't fight against reality too much. Now you still have a clear vision of what you want. You still feel it as if it's real. You still take action towards it persistently on a daily basis. But in the same way, you're not too forceful, you're not too clinged, and you're not too attached to the outcome. And you're also open for signs to check to see if you're going in the right direction. So that's the experiment I'll leave you with here in this video. In order to experience synchronicities happening for you in your life, spend 15 minutes tonight before you go to bed really just feeling your ideal life scenario as if it's real now, not worrying about how to, not worrying about practicality, really feeling, don't get too bogged down in the specifics. Really just go for the feeling of like, what if I already had that thing that I've been wanting? And spend a good 15 minutes really like stewing in that feeling, turning it over in your mind, going over the details, not with like this attachment of like, hopefully it happens, right? Just do this as an experiment. Like, don't worry if, maybe it won't happen. It doesn't matter. Just do it for fun. Like, okay, I'm just going to feel good for the next 15 minutes. And then see if anything changes. Keep your eyes open for synchronicities. Maybe they'll happen tomorrow. Maybe they won't happen at all. But the point is to really do the experiment for yourself and to check in your own experience to see if it's true, because your own experience is all that's true. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Forgive me for the scattered, rambly mind. I have plans with my girlfriend and I'm late, so I gotta go. Check out the recommended videos here. Subscribe for more. You can also book a one-on-one call with me if you'd like some one-on-one help from me with creating the life of your dreams. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.